everybody. Well, here we go. So I've never been good at dealing with confrontation. It's just, anger is a really difficult emotion for me to deal with. Like, a lot of times I'll just kind of repress it until I can vent it to someone I trust later. At my worst, I get really worked up and to where I just can't talk and I just start crying. So, but I try to keep a lid on it so that I'm not explosive, because I don't really want to be known as like an angry person. But I think living in New York is changing that. And I'm going to share something to explain that I'm not proud of. So every now and then I look after 2 French bulldogs. Their names are Rerun and Julio. They live with their 2 dads over in Chelsea. And you know, they're very sweet, very loving, they're great with people and everything, but they're very, very stubborn when it comes to going on a walk. Because Rerun is always wanting to chase after other dogs and skateboards and stuff like that, so he's always ahead of me. And Julio doesn't like walking where I say they're going to walk, so he'll plant his feet until I practically have to drag him down the sidewalk, so he's always behind me. So every time we go for a walk, I just look like I'm wrangling these 2 crazy animals on their leashes. So one day I'm looking after these guys, it's time for their walk. I get them on their leashes, I pop my earbuds in to listen to music, and we go out the door. Now on the next street corner over, there is this small cafe next to the apartment with an outdoor seating area that is not blocked off by any kind of barricade or fence or wall, just potted plants. Just potted plants in a barrier around the tables, just low enough to the ground for a dog to want to piss on. So we're walking by and I feel the leash behind me tug to a halt, and I turn to look, and Julio is peeing on this potted plant right next to a guy at the table who's working on his laptop. Now, the guy's not getting peed on, but it's too close for comfort. But Julio's already going, so I kind of go and do kind of a look, like, oh, I'm sorry, man. And he doesn't really acknowledge me, he doesn't speak up. So Julio finishes, but because Rerun has to mark the same territory, Rerun now goes over and pees on the potted plant too. So now this is just getting embarrassing. Now we gotta get these guys out of here. So we start walking again, when suddenly through my earbuds I hear like this muffled voice. And I turn, and there's this older man trying to say something to me. And I take the earbuds out, I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And he's this older guy, heavy Italian accent, going, why you not watching your dogs? Why you letting them be there? Like just going nuts. And I'm like, in all fairness, I could have stopped this, had I caught it in time, I should own up to that. To be honest. So I'm like, I start to apologize. I'm like, hey man, I'm sorry, the dogs, you know, they're really stubborn. He goes, you know, use a good sense. And something snapped. And I go, excuse me? And he goes, you hear me, you know using your head. And I see red. And before I can stop myself, I launch into the angriest, loudest, most profanity-laced tirade I've ever launched on another human being. I basically turn into a Southern Joe Pesci. And I'm screaming at this guy, and he starts screaming back at me, trying to yell over me. So we're these 2 guys screaming in front of a cafe next to 2 French bulldogs and a guy on his computer who's still not speaking up. So finally, I just end it with, mind your own business. And I throw the earbuds back in and we start to walk away. And then first I'm fuming. And then I start to calm down, and then suddenly I'm just overwhelmed with this shocked guilt. Like, I'm just like, what is wrong with me? I don't act like that, especially around strangers. Like, why would I do that? And then suddenly I notice the dogs. And for once, I have both dogs in front of me. And I realize that they aren't looking at me. In fact, they have not looked at me since I started yelling at this man. And at one point, Julio looks at me over his shoulder and gives me a look that I can only assume is the bulldog equivalent of, you are embarrassing me. And so we finish walking around the block, and for the rest of the walk, I feel like our roles have reversed, and I am the crazy animal on the leash. Thank you.